so be kind. All right, I'm gonna pull this up. Okay, so hold on, thank you. Hey, who voted on Tuesday? Who voted? Yes! You were part of the most historical midterm in history. So if you think about it, Missouri had record turnout, so did Greene County. And we had 113 million people. They voted. That's over 50% of the population. I'm sure you all took a selfie with the sticker on, or if you even went to Google. Google didn't say Google on Tuesday, it said go vote. That's amazing. So on a national level, just kind of breaking down what the results were. So Congress, the House of Representatives, and the Senate, we had the Democrats reclaim the House. So it was like 224 seats or so. So they kind of have that control now. And what that means is that they're going to have a little more oversight to the Trump administration, investigations, things like that. We also had a record number of women who won seats in the House of Representatives, right? I'm sure you guys read that. New populations are represented that weren't previously. LGBTQ, Muslim, Native American, all those populations now have someone that they can relate to. So that's really great. In the Senate, Republicans won 51 seats. They retained the control. The Senate, so that's a longer term. Those are 6-year terms. They're going to deal with like larger decisions like judges, or even if, let's say, the president was going to be impeached, the Senate is who would convict. So what that kind of overviews is that Congress is divided now. We have this kind of what, in Missouri, we have the Showy State, that's us, we have the Senate race here. And basically, I don't like clicking all this. Sorry. So I'm sure you guys didn't see a single campaign ad, right? for McCaskill or Hawley, not at all. Even President Trump actually came here to a rally for Josh Hawley. It was held here in Springfield. A lot of the United States, look, everybody was kind of watching Missouri to see how it would go. It was a very close race, and Missouri's kind of been a swing state in the past. But Josh Hawley did win by, 5% or so. Also, Billy Long, I'm sure you recognize that name. This guy has great name recognition. Seems like either from his auctioneering days or just recognition. He won the 7th Congressional District, which is also, ironically, the most pro-Republican congressional district in the nation, according to the Cook Political Report. So it's kind of an interesting tidbit. As far as the ballot issues, man, when you went to vote and there was all that information to read, or 8 things to read, it could have been a little intimidating, but if you took the time to read through it, Amendment 1 is clean Missouri was kind of the term for that. I'm so passionate about this one. It's basically coming into Jefferson City and fixing the culture. It's putting a cap on what you can donate. It's improving how sunshine law requests are done and what information an average citizen could receive. It eliminates lobbyist gifts, kind of puts a balance in there on that. And then also, as far as gerrymandering, it's going to give support for doing that with integrity. Even the former governor of California, I read, he personally raised funds for Missouri, for Clean Missouri. So most importantly, that's going to create transparency for us and for the citizens, which who doesn't love that? And that passed by a ton. Also, you guys probably knew Amendments 2, 3, and C were all about medical marijuana. So Missouri became the 31st state to accept and approve medical marijuana. And basically, all of the amendments and propositions would approve this, but Amendment 2 is what actually passed. It's going to tax medical marijuana at 4% and then fund veterans health care. I'm sure we all wanted to be able to say Brad Bradshaw, doctor, lawyer, drug lord, but it didn't pass. So that A3 and PC, they were shut down. Proposition B, we've all worked a minimum wage job. When I started at the mall, I made $5 an hour. Since 2009, the federal minimum wage is $7.25. on that for businesses, but OTC will have to apply with that as well. Honorable mentions, who doesn't love bingo? That passed. Proposition D, I was sad about this. I'm really passionate about gas taxes and where those services are going to go, or what funds going to have to be cut to pay for roads and bridges. But overall, out of all the amendments and all the things that we saw Tuesday that we were all a part of, Missouri ended up voting heavily for Republicans, but also got these Democratic generally supported ballots approved. So we're moving forward with kind of a really neat dynamic. Honorable mentions, Crystal Quaid, Curtis Strett, they came to OCC, they took the time to come talk to us. So we wanted to mention that they had come and that they both beat their components. There you go. Overview. There you go.
Thank you so much, Cara Griffin. Also interesting, Crystal Quaid, who again did come speak here at OTC and did win her re-election, has been named House Minority Leader. So in the House of Representatives, Missouri's House of Representatives, Springfield has Elijah Haar, who's the Speaker of the House, and now Crystal Quaid, who will be Minority Leader. Springfield well represented in the Missouri House of Representatives. Wanted to highlight that so you guys would have an understanding of a backdrop really of our conversation that we're having today. So, with that said, let's take some time to talk about what happened, how do you say that? Why have I forgotten English? Why did this happen? What happened? Rose, what happened?
What happened?
Well, I like to key in on one of your last comments, Cara, about how you still had this dichotomy. I think it's really interesting that Republicans maybe did a little better than projected to do, and so maybe they were surprised. I don't know. Wall Street said yesterday they were not surprised. But on the other hand, as Cara pointed out, a lot of ballot issues that would be perceived, if you had to guess or die, you might guess that it was a more Democratic issue than a Republican issue. Those passed. And I don't know if you saw some of the national news, but one of our jury political science professors, Professor Ponders, was quoted in the LA Times as explaining that he thought that trend would continue, that people have figured out that they don't necessarily need a political party to push their agenda, that they can kind of DIY it themselves. I think of it as a la carte policy making, and that he expects that trend to go on. So I think in terms of what happened, the big takeaway for me is that with that high voter turnout, people have kind of seized control for themselves. And that's kind of exciting.
Thank you so much. And I just want to highlight one more time, we have a panel of political science instructors here at OTC, Rose Barber, Valerie Onstott, Anna Morissey, and of course, Cara Griffin. Valerie, is it possible that we've just had a midterm election with no one narrative? Usually when you have these elections, you say the American people want blah. We have a split decision. Is there a narrative? What's the narrative when they tell stories about this midterm 9 decades from now?
Well, I'm going to echo too what Rose was talking about regarding seemingly taking political parties and associating that with specific issues. But as Missouri has demonstrated, we didn't do that. I mean, it is becoming more of an individualized ballot initiatives, not so much associated with party ideology. And I'm also going to echo the fact how it is with the really high voter turnout, the optimism of people getting out to vote, no matter whatever social network you were on or what you saw on television. Of course, people are going to say, get out and vote this way or get out and vote that way. But I also saw a lot of people just saying, get out and vote. And there was an excitement, there was a dynamic in the air about that. So to answer your question, again, it was more about the individual issues,
Valerie,
not so much party ideology.
The turnout for this election was 49%. Actually, I read it was 48 something, put in there. It's the highest turnout we've had since '66 for a midterm election.
Yeah.
There was, so I'm going to play a little bit of something just said, because I agree, there was a lot of energy around these midterm elections. And so, for all that energy, we got sub 50% turnout. Why did we get sub 50% turnout in your estimation, Valerie? Can you explain that? Can anybody explain that? Is my therapist here? Why 50% turnout? Because I agree. You almost couldn't talk about at least the ballot issues alone. The ballot issues were really significant things. It's just shocking that there is that much conversation about it. Is there a narrative about this election that you can tell, Anna?
You know, I thought that there would be a higher turnout because, I mean, I got notifications from an Apple to go register to vote. There were notifications everywhere from sources that I'd never seen before.
Taylor Swift.
Right.
Taylor Swift encouraged, yeah.
The Tonight Show, Jimmy Fallon was mentioning go vote constantly. And so I was really surprised that there wasn't a higher turnout, but for a midterm, I think it is a good turnout. I think that people are busy, they think that their vote doesn't matter. I think that that's the biggest issue with people not turning out to vote, is that they think that they assume that the guy they see on TV all the time, or whatever the trend is, they assume that person's going to win, and they don't think that their vote matters. I think that's still a stigma.
So, Rose, I was reading this article, I forget where, maybe Vox, but I was reading this article about how federalism, different levels of government, is a joke. Because people, even when they're voting for their school boards, are still voting on the president. Was this midterm election, in your opinion, based on what you've seen and read and such, a referendum on President Trump? Was it focused more on the local races? Was it a mishmash?
It's really interesting. I do think, and this is true, in every midterm, if you look at, what is said historically through the years, that it's seen as a referendum on whatever president. And so that reminds me, I should make the point, I'm not associated with any political party, I'm not here to push that, but you always hear that it's a test of whoever holds the White House's political party. And I think we thought that going in, and to a certain extent that may have got people out to vote. But again, I think we're seeing in voters incredible discernment and ability to pick and choose. Once they get to the poll, they were individuals in terms of how they behave. So I do think one trend we could probably take away, Andrew, and I don't know if this is going to last, but it does seem like the divide between the urban area and the rural area in terms of ideology is pretty strong right now, in terms of how those turnouts resulted in votes. So
I've been asked that when I was making a presentation about a year ago. I had been asked that by somebody who attended that meeting. And they asked if demographics were going to save the Democratic Party because we're getting more and more diverse. And if you look at these election returns, it's almost a racial divide. White voters are going increasingly Republican, minority voters are going increasingly Democratic. And it seems like a mixed bag. Like demographics aren't going to save the Democratic Party because these increasing diversity is being centralized in urban centers. Is that right?
Well, I think maybe the way that the issues are framed as a matter of ideology are a little bit different in terms of the urban outlook and the rural outlook. NPR did a piece on it this morning, and again, they were coming back to Missouri. I think in some ways Missouri has captured some national attention this year, focusing on why it is if rural voters see their economic situation much worse than it has been in decades past, their voting behavior doesn't necessarily translate that. And again, I think it comes back to your own philosophy of what it is you think government should do for you. And I think we've miscast maybe those populations a little bit. We've made some assumptions that are maybe a little outdated.
Cara, when we talk about this election is not anybody's first rodeo up here. We've been through a few elections, and we remember Missouri. If you go to the 1900s, we remember Missouri not as the hardcore Republican state that it is now, but instead as like the swingiest of the swing states, like the bellwether. There was like almost every presidential election from 1900 to 2000, if Missouri voted your way, you were going to win the presidency. Well, over the last 10 years, Missouri has gone increasingly Republican to the point now where all the major offices, almost all the major offices, are held by Republicans. What accounts for this trend?
Sure. I think it's really interesting that it's become so predominantly Republican, and I might pick up from what you said, Rose. Sometimes I feel like the rural populations, it's like Southwest Missouri can be a Republican, and then Kansas City and St. Louis are Democrat. And I feel like there's a lot of rural areas in Missouri that just lean that way. That's what they know, that's what they're comfortable with, that's what they believe in. Even the 7th Congressional District, which is the most pro-Republican district in the nation, is here in our state. And I think also because it's rural versus urban, there's just majority wins. I think that's why it's kind of leaning Republican now. And also, I wonder, and this is maybe not a question for this right now, but I wonder too, Missouri's really trying to get on the forefront of economic growth and diversity, and I wonder how businesses coming in, big businesses, things that are typically Republican, I wonder how that influences just kind of the way that they want things.
And I don't remember when this trend began. My best estimation is maybe 2008.
Yeah.
2008, Obama won in a landslide the presidency, and every state voted more liberally than it had in 2004, with 2 exceptions. One was Alaska, and I think Sarah Palin had something to do with that. The other was Missouri.
Yeah.
Tell us why this is happening. Why are we trending? Why are we no longer the swingy state we used to be?
I mean, I don't know. I think that, I know that a lot of people are rural, and I don't know. I mean, it just seems like something that's been happening. A lot of the centers in St. Louis are more Republican. I know the older traditional people there tend to be more Republican. And I think that that's just spread across the state.
I think if you wanted to find an election that was meaningful to you personally, this midterm election had it, Valerie. This election had all kinds of ridiculous races. Can you tell us about, were there any non-Missouri races that you had your eye on that captivated or interested you?
I was actually watching a few. I was watching down in Texas, and I was watching just what you said in the beginning of your presentation, how the population changed with who was elected into the House, and how there were different folks there representing what we had never had before. So I was watching different, across the nation.
The diversity was pretty stunning.
The diversity, and even my youngest son, who's not of voting age yet, was sitting down with me watching the results, going, Mom, this is kind of, I'm like, yes, that's good to just keep the interest. And you just feel, I don't know, from the midterms this time around, it just felt a connection. No matter what your position is, there was more of a connection. And whether that initially was whether or not to shift the political power one way or the other with our current administration, or again, it began to be a pick and choose kind of result, is what it developed into.
Any non-Missouri races, Rose, that captivated you?
Well, and I guess I'm supposed to be watching the races, right, or hide from Andrew Lunn. I don't know which, but early on for me, it really kind of caught fire in another state's primary, that you could have a very young Democrat woman, 28 years of age, in New York, beat an established. I mean, he probably thought he had that in the bag, but when she won that primary and became then the day before yesterday, 2 days behind, the youngest female in